Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of What a Hell of a Way to Die. It's another dad chat with me and Nate. And Nate, I feel like I have to brag here for a minute because we had some British weather really happening, and I didn't see the sun for like 8 days. And I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you deal with the sun being setting at 3:30 and also just it being cloudy for like a month at any given time. I was feeling sad. I was not getting my vitamin D.
Yeah, it sucks. Believe me. I mean, there's just no getting around that. I've lived here. Well, this is my 6th winter, and this winter has been
that is how
easiest.
People should describe living in England. Like, this is my 6th winter.
Well, I haven't lived here for a full 6 years total, but I got here, at the end of summer of 2018. So, went through fall, winter, and then starting the first year. So. But this year, Cynthia just recommended that I just take vitamin D pills, take one every day. They kind of more marketed as like bone strength, but they are vitamin D. And I just added that to my little pill caddy for the stuff I got to take every morning. And honestly, this has been the least bad winter for me, I think, of all the times we've been here. Like, it's been difficult because of the variety of things we've got going on, and then the challenges, the dislocation, et cetera, the stress of having the new kid and some other stuff. But in terms of like the sort of dysfunction and seasonal depression, this has been the least bad by far. By like, there's no comparison.
Well, that's good. My wife and I thought about getting some of those vitamin D like lamps, the sun lamps or something. But
the sad lamps, yeah.
Yeah, the sad lamps. But I walk the dog 3 times a day, so I get all the vitamin D that I need. And I don't know, they like to sit by windows. They don't leave the house all that often, but when they are in the house, my wife and daughter, they try to get a little bit of sunlight during the day, or at least I try to push them outside. It's not as easy, during the winter because it's cold as hell. And we had, January is when we always have our like, this is when we have to deal with our like 4-degree weather. But thankfully we're at like, what am I at today? It is 42 degrees, which is 42 and sunny in St. Louis in January is pretty top notch. Like, you can't really complain about that.
I made a joke that we had weather where it was like right around freezing or below freezing here. And I was like, all right, it's Indiana in March. And then we had weather when it was like 50. And I'm like, yep, it's Indiana in March. But on those days that it's 50 in Indiana in March, it's insanely windy, which is also the situation we were in. Yeah, what I find is the case with this stuff here is that it's rare that you have extreme weather. It's extremely rare, actually. Like, I think I told you that the last December, Cynthia was supposed to go to Geneva for a work thing, and that it wound up getting delayed because we had gotten a surprise snowstorm, and the snow stuck, and it lasted for like a week because it was really cold. And so her flight it was the day after, but her flight was canceled. And then it was like, I want to say she did finally get to fly on Tuesday. She was supposed to fly on Monday night, but that's the only time since we've lived here that that snow has fallen and stuck around like more than a day. So it's pretty rare here. So yeah, you basically never get Indiana January. You just get Indiana March.
Well, look, I would rather have Indiana March. I don't like the snow. I don't like being cold. I've become like, usually every January we have a trip to Florida planned just to kind of get out of the St. Louis weather, which has its ups and downs. One, it's warm, but 2, we came back with COVID, so it's.
Oh Jesus, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Thankfully, we're all shotted up. Really, my wife was the only one who popped hot on COVID. Me and the daughter. I thought that I had a head cold, and that's all that it really felt like. So when my wife was just like, I'm going to go ahead and take a test, and she took one, and it came up positive really quick. But my daughter and I never came up as positive. So I don't know. No, I can't tell with COVID anymore. She was asking one of her friends who's got a kid in school, and she's like, "Yeah, as long as you don't have a fever, you can go back out and do stuff." I'm like, oh, that's why we're spiking right now, huh? We've just kind of thrown all of the precautions out the window. But we did, when we went out, we did at least mask up so that we weren't coughing on other people. And we stay at home. We don't have third place, the place that isn't home or school to hang out at. We just hang out at home. And I moved from the house to the pod shack and then back to the house afterwards. So
it's funny because not that many people wear masks here anymore. I mean, definitely people, I think, when they're ill or people who are immunocompromised do, but like you basically almost never, like it's an exception to see anyone wearing them. However, Kids going out to fucking steal shit love wearing them all the time.
Yeah.
Because then the CCTV can't get them. So that is very funny.
Yeah, I know that there's that in America, because we have to deal with our rising crime rate, which doesn't actually exist, but everybody over the age of 45 will wring their hands and fret about it. So they're like, no, we have to ban masks, but also we need masks, but don't wear masks when you're at a protest, but wear masks when you're going, I don't know, go into the store, but also don't wear masks at the store if you're going to steal stuff. It's, we don't really have hard and fast rules anymore, and nobody really gives a shit. Like we were wearing masks and nobody cares. I don't think anybody is going to come up and try to rip the mask off of my face. I did. About 2 years ago, I was in Las Vegas, and I had a cold in Las Vegas, and I was wearing a mask in the elevator, and some guy got on the elevator and did that kind of thing at me. So I pulled the mask down and just started coughing the entire time I was in the elevator, just doing the passive aggressive thing, really fucking with anybody who wants to give me a guffaw of derision. I will cough on you, and I will give you whatever disease I have. I'm all about biological warfare in that kind of sense.
I haven't ever really had a problem, but my buddy who's Chinese American was visiting, and because he came to visit back when New York was still mandatory in some places to wear masks, so that he's what he was used to. And obviously, at that point, once they took down the sort of official mask directives, because it's just a more centralized country, nobody was wearing them aside from medical staff who needed to, in clinics and stuff like that. But he was wearing a mask in the grocery store, and some lady came up to him and was like, "Masks are for sheep." And I don't know. It's just I was like, man, I didn't see it. He told me later, and I was like, it's so fucking weird. And what I realized was it's probably something to do with the fact that he's not white and I am. That people don't fuck with me as much, but Brits are just. I've come up with my new golden rule: Americans are annoying and Brits are rude. But that kind of attitude does exist. But then also I don't know. I look at that and it's just lady. He's 50, 55, 60-year-old white British lady. It's lady, him wearing that mask is better for your diabetes having ass than fucking anything for him. Just in case, you know what I mean? What could he possibly cough on you that life isn't going to fucking give you already? But he's at least being courteous,
right? I long for the day that conservatives go back to the idea of do what you want, and I won't bother you.
They never had that idea.
I know.
They never had that idea. It never existed. That was just so they could be racist and do redlining.
Right.
It never existed.
Yeah, unfortunately not. But yeah, so we're still. Well, actually, my daughter she 8 years old, got her first braces brackets put in yesterday on the long dark slog of having to get her teeth straightened out, because my teeth were fucked when I was a kid, and I know my wife's were too. So it's kind of all right, you're 8 and you're starting this now. It's good to kind of begin this, and it's only 3 brackets on lower molars, because one of the molars is kind of impacting, so we need to spread those apart a little bit.
You want to get that done.
You gotta get it done now, which is I didn't start being in braces until I was 12, and I had to get teeth pulled to start doing braces, because I still had baby teeth in. So I'm hoping that because my daughter is a very sensitive child, and she was very worried about going to the orthodontist. And I'm just Jesus, I hope because when I had to get teeth pulled, they didn't put me under. They were just we're gonna Novocaine you up, and we're gonna hit you with some laughing gas so that you kind of don't remember it. And I remember all of it, every bit of it. But it didn't hurt, so it's not that bad. But yeah, I've got a couple of dental surgery core memories floating around in my brain, and if I can avoid that with my daughter, I hope to do so, because it was certainly it took me a while to be comfortable going to the dentist again. But I'm 40 now, and you have to be comfortable with it. So now I just go in, it's drill whatever, fucking. Now, I don't know when the last time you had to go get major dental stuff done, but they've got this great, I had chipped one of my front teeth, and the guy's just no, it's cool, we'll just glue a bit in there for you. And they have this stuff now, they put it on, and then they hit it with a light, and they're whatever it is, the frequency of this light on this compound makes it solidify.
Yeah, it's like UV light, and it like cures it or something. Yeah.
Yes, in like instantaneously, it's like your tooth is stronger now. It's like, well, fucking hit up the rest of them then. I'm tired of having to get cavities drilled out. Which, I mean, if I wanted to do that, I'd floss better, but you know.
So I may not be the best person on the planet to talk to about major dental work because I had like a bit of a traumatic experience with it, and it's somewhat ongoing. But I've just kind of like resolved that once we get to Switzerland, I'm just going to get an implant.
Oh yeah, because you're missing a tooth, aren't you?
I am. I'm missing my front left tooth. I was sort of press ganged into playing basketball for PT during Army ROTC as a senior in college, and me and my buddy Nick were not necessarily good, but very aggressive basketball players, and we both very aggressively went up for a rebound, and his elbow hit me in the mouth and knocked my tooth not all the way out, but when they reimplanted it, there was no hope of saving it, and so I had to get a root canal, but the guy who did the root canal sucked. The guy who reimplanted it sucked so bad, and the splint he made was so bad that my home dentist, when she took a look at it, she's like, I'm sorry, this is going to take longer, but I have to document this to report this guy for malpractice because this is the worst splint I've ever seen in my life. Like you could have like gotten on Google and done it better yourself. It looked like I did hillbilly braces.
Was it a military dentist?
No, fuck no. It was in Bloomington, Indiana. Bro, why don't I just tell the story, because it was pretty radicalizing of an experience for me. So This happened, and they were like, what do we do? Okay, we'll take him to the emergency room, but the emergency room can't treat a dental emergency, or at least not that hospital could, in Bloomington, Indiana. So they admitted me. They knew they couldn't treat me, but they admitted me, and they gave me a little patient bracelet and a gauze pad and a pamphlet on we've determined that tooth decay is causing your toothache. Brush better. But they couldn't actually treat me because they didn't have anyone in the hospital who could handle dental trauma. So I got billed $475 for that, of course, but they didn't treat me. So then they said, go to an oral surgeon. So I found an oral surgeon, went there. Problem is, my friend drove me there. I was in my PTs from doing PT in the morning. And, you know, I guess in retrospect, I did have my wallet in my car because I wasn't going to drive without my license, but I didn't drive there myself. My buddy drove me there. So they wouldn't treat me or even check me out in the office without a form of payment. They told me to go home. And I have a tooth halfway hanging out of my fucking face, and they wouldn't treat me. So I went home and I got my credit card and I went in and got treated. And then this guy did, the worst. Basically, from what I now know, they're supposed to use a small bit of wire and dental cement to do it after they reimplant it. He basically did hillbilly braces on the front of my teeth.
Ooh.
It looked like I hadn't brushed in a year. It was fucking hideous. Like, most people were polite, but like our new senior NCO in the ROTC battalion was this like former 10th Mountain, just psychotically like dad owned a strip club in Fayetteville level of just like leather face army guy. And he just said, brother, you got the most fucked up grill I've ever seen in my life. Like white dude he was from Sanford, North Carolina. Bro, so I had to get a root canal because the tooth died. The guy who did the root canal in Bloomington also sucked at his job. So fucking it didn't take, he left some tooth pulp and nerve tissue in there. So I then had to go home, get it checked out, and then get another root canal done, and then go back and have my my home dentist remove the splint once it was all done. Of course, I wasn't covered under dental insurance because I was over 18 and the ACA hadn't passed. And also, I don't even know if dental insurance still covers that because dental insurance is treated like luxury insurance. It's basically, dental insurance is like you pay it so you can get in the door and then pay everything out of pocket also. Like, it's dog shit. I had great insurance with the job that I had previously when I had a corporate job in New York, but my dental insurance was not good. And it's like, even the job that gives you good enough health insurance that you don't pay a fucking premium every month, like, and your deductible is super low, even the best they can get you is bad dental insurance. Yeah,
dental insurance is basically, we'll pay for your cleanings, but anything beyond that is kind of on you. Though,
yeah, they're luxury bones.
I will say, my corporate job has pretty decent dental insurance, I will say, because I think
the thing that we had, the problem with ours wasn't that it was bad so much as that, like, across the board bad, it's that the annual coverage limit was way too low for how much people charge for procedures in New York City. And so, like, I knew people who would schedule, like, wait until the end of December, or middle of December-ish for scheduling stuff, get it done during the dead period, and then if follow-on work had to be done, which typically was the case, they could then do it again in January and, like, have the next year's limit. So, like, it was bad. I mean, So long story short, I mean, and that dentist, I did go to a dentist across the street from our office who was like pretty high-priced dentist, and they just said like, look, the tooth is not doing very well. This happened in 2007, and so this was it. I was getting the cleaning done in like 2018, and they said, look, like it's just not doing great. Like you need to be really careful because the chances are good that it's going to break if you're not careful, and it's going to have to be removed. So anyway, being an idiot, I made a sandwich with slightly hard bread not too long after we moved to the United Kingdom and bit into it, and I felt a snapping inside my gum line, and that was the tooth breaking. And so I went to a dentist. They checked it out. They determined it was broken. This was, in the experience in 2007, I came out of it with having to pay with no insurance, having to pay for root canal 1, root canal 2, implantation, emergency room, and all of my meds out of pocket. And they gave me a ton of like, anti-inflammatory and like oxycodone. So all in all, I wound up about $2,500 in the hole for this, for playing a game of basketball. And then my ROTC battalion hooked me up, and they basically gave me some like cadet excellence award at the end of the semester because they felt bad, and that gave me $500 because I tried to fight OSHA stuff, but they refused to cover it because it's like, even though technically speaking, I was doing a thing through Indiana University as a ROTC cadet, like no one was going to cover it. Like they're like, no, fuck you. It doesn't matter if you had to do it as part of your scholarship. Fuck you. Suck it up. Deal with it, bitch. Your tooth got busted, and we don't care. Pay or don't have a tooth. So America in a nutshell. So here in the United Kingdom, I went to a dentist, and they were good. They were polite. They were like, look, we can pull this tooth, but if the tooth, because it's broken, if the root sticks in, like we don't have the ability to do that surgery to remove it, and it would be worse to do that and leave it in than leave it as is and just get you a referral for an actual dental surgery. So they did, but the thing about it is with the way the NHS dentistry system works is they put in the referral and then it just goes into a black box and you have no fucking clue what its status is. So for months I was like, is this ever going to happen? I don't know. And then I randomly got a letter in the mail saying, all right, you're scheduled for an evaluation, on this date, go into this hospital. It's like kind of like the VA would in America. Went in, got checked out, and then they said, okay, we're going to do this. And then they gave me a date. And so I went in and had the surgery. And the surgery was quick and they did a really good job. They gave me what felt like mild general anesthesia and then brought me out. And then Cynthia was like, do you remember any of the instructions that they gave you? And I was like, no, my earliest memory is us walking to the bus after the surgery. Like, I don't remember anything. And she's like, yeah, because they gave you instructions, but they knew you were still coming out of anesthesia. So anyway, I then went to the dentist. The surgery was free. The dental checkup was free. Getting a denture made cost me like £300, which is a lot of money. And most people wouldn't be able to afford that. And that was subsidized by the NHS. But an implant is not covered under the NHS. So the cheapest I've seen implants for is about £1,500, which is not much less than what it would cost in Switzerland, where the quality of care is a lot better. So I'm just going to have it done in Switzerland and just absorb the cost when the time comes. So yeah, every day I get up and I brush my teeth and I take my denture out of a little cleaning thing, a little thing of water with a little cleaning agent in it, and dry it off and put a little bit of dental cement and put it in because I have a fake tooth. And sometimes I forget to do it before a podcast recording, and I can hear the difference.
You hear the little whistle on your S's?
Yeah, I mean, I did that before, and I do it way worse when I don't have the denture in. Yeah, I've learned about doing a dynamic EQ, with a really narrow angle of what they call a Q, and like lowered down significant amounts of volume at right around center of the frequency, around 6,000, which is the hissing S frequency, because 6,000 hertz, because I had to learn how to take this horrible whistling hiss sound out of my own recordings. And it's not like it all goes away, but like it's pretty bad. So yeah, it's really, it's weird because the NHS used to be a lot more comprehensive and free for dental care, but like they've just, they started whittling that away like 3 years after the NHS came into being, and they've only whittled it down even further. So it's better here in the sense that like, I've never been refused care for lack of a form of payment, but the care you get can be whatever it's going to be. And the big scam right now in the UK, or the big conundrum, is you are entitled to NHS care at like basically a subsidized rate. Like cleanings, I think you're either free or like £15. I can't remember how much they cost. But the thing about it is that that's not what they cost if you pay out of pocket for private. And dentists aren't owned by the state. Like they are private practices, but they take NHS patients. So basically no one is accepting new NHS patients right now. So yeah, like you have the ability to have like at very reduced cost state subsidized dental care, but basically no one will take you as a patient right now. It's like dental Section 8 housing. And I'm lucky that I got registered at our dentist practice in 2018. And even though they've gone through like 4 changes of ownership, they haven't dropped me from the rolls, because a lot of people wind up getting dropped from the rolls. So I've been able to go and get like I'm due for a cleaning sometime soon. It's pretty basic, and Cynthia had a situation where she later discovered she needed a root canal, but like she got a lot of misdiagnoses from just kind of like sloppy dentists. I wouldn't say dental care is like as bad as the stereotypes make it out about this country, but like it's not great.
Like you said, all dental care is they're your luxury bones, and I have a great dentist. The dentist is my wife has been going there for like 30 years, and she told me, he's like, yeah, jump on, these guys are fine. It's great, and it's a little tiny practice, but yeah, like it's, you know, the dentists are fewer and far between. Like if you get a bad doctor, you can be like, fuck this, I'm going to go find another doctor fairly easily. It is not as easy to do that with a dentist, especially when like they've already fucked it up. And you're like, now I have to find somebody else to deal with this massive fuck up that this other dentist did. So thankfully all of my dental work has been really great. My orthodontist was a really very loud, very gregarious man, but he was really good at what he did, and was also very like, you know, hey, here's what we're going to do. This is going to suck. Like it's not going to be happy. It's not going to work out great, but your teeth are jacked up and you need better teeth, and we're going to take care of that for you. So I'm lucky in that regard, but I know that a lot of people with dental problems, it's hard to find that, especially like you said with finding like, oh, your dentist can't do this, you have to find an oral surgeon. And then that's just a whole thing. Like, oh, I hope I can find one who isn't going to fuck everything up inside of my face, because, you know, once you do, there's no going back. Then it just becomes, no, we have to put a bolt in here and Frankenstein a tooth in here for you, because otherwise, you know, they rooted around in there in your gums and it all got fucked up. And you got to be careful, because if your teeth are bad, it can like kill you. Like it could give you heart disease.
It's much less likely that, for example, you'll die because of an untreated dental thing in the United Kingdom than it is in America, where people die from this stuff all the time because like they don't give a fuck. You know, the system doesn't give a fuck if you get dental care or not. And that was something that I remember, because, you know, I used to work fast food, is that you could tell people who were working fast food and people who were coming to the restaurant. It wasn't always the purest determiner, but a lot of people I worked with had bad teeth, like visibly bad teeth, or if they were older, they had like metal teeth. And a lot of the people who were townies like did too, whereas, you know, the college kids didn't. I mean, I had to get a lingual arch when I was 9, because my bottom teeth were kind of bent in, like, you know, they were kind of like tilting backwards.
Yeah, I had
and
one
they
of
were
those.
Like
my front teeth were in a straight line, so I had to get the thing to push them into a curve.
And then basically after that, when I was 10, I got braces, and I got them off like when I was like 11 and a half. I think I wore, like, braces is always seen as like a teenage years thing, but I've noticed it with friends' kids too, that they seem like you know, they start braces much younger now. But even when I was a kid, I remember getting my retainers to kind of keep my post braces teeth in place before I was 12. So I think I was in 4th grade. I remember it was the day I got the braces on, it didn't feel that bad. And then the next day it hurt like fucking shit. I remember trying to eat a hamburger because granted, my dad, when he made hamburgers at home, they were like gigantic and like you had to really crane your mouth around it. But I remember trying to eat a hamburger and I couldn't. Like it hurt too much to bite into a bun and a burger. And then I just remember it hurting a lot. I remember every time they'd do an adjustment, it would be the same thing. It's like the day after it would hurt a lot.
Ooh, I gotta, after this, I need to go in and check on my daughter, because, yeah, she got those put in yesterday. She's like, yeah, I mean, it kind of aches. It's like, yeah, tomorrow's going to suck, though, so.
Yeah, and then there's the, I remember, like, because I was so young when I got mine that my what is it called, adult canine teeth hadn't come in yet. So it wasn't until, like, early 5th grade that those teeth had actually come in enough that they could then put the braces caps on them. And I remember getting those once they were capped and once they were kind of incorporated into the wire, it fucking hurt so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, But I do remember you getting him off, and it was very weird because like you had to get like cleaning, and then you'd come back and get another cleaning because like there was all the residue. But one thing that I think has kind of saved me, because I hadn't had a cleaning for a while because during COVID, like it was just such a nightmare to even get anything. But when the tooth broke and I was waiting on the surgery, it was starting to form an abscess. And the only thing that kept the abscess from forming was that every day, twice a day when I brushed my teeth, I would use Listerine first and then brush. And I just got into the habit of always doing that. This isn't supposed to be like we're sponsored by Listerine, and some people can't have alcohol-based mouthwash for a variety of reasons. But I just kept doing that, using mouthwash and then brushing, and that, I don't know if that saved me, but I had a cleaning back in, I want to say in June, July, and I didn't have any cavities.
Oh.
I didn't have any cavities. I mean, a lot of plaque they had to remove, but I didn't have any cavities at all. Honestly, a friend of mine warned me. He said it's better like precaution in advance when you start taking Vyvanse, Elvanse, lisdexamphetamine, to just like really, really increase your dental hygiene regimen just in case, because for some people, like it stops you from producing enough saliva and it can cause really bad oral health. So I got a water pick, and I got alcohol-free mouthwash, and I got a good electric toothbrush, and like that just became a thing that I did, and now I just haven't really gone back from that. So I always use the water pick, and I've gone back to Listerine, but because I don't really have that problem that he described. But so now, like, I don't know, like it's very funny to be like, hey, podcast about your dental habits, but like I wasn't the best about it when I was younger, but I think the gross feeling of being in the field in the Army and like not being able to brush your teeth for a while, the horrible feeling of like the fucked up teeth, or like I remember I didn't get a cleaning for a long time when I was in Afghanistan, and then I almost immediately I was on the wait list to get cleaned coming back, and then I got deployed to fucking Honduras again, and I went to them and I'm like, normally they don't do cleanings for people on 6-month rotations, but I was like, guys, I'm really sorry, they didn't have time to slot me in after deployment. I haven't had a cleaning in like 2 years, and I'm really glad I got the cleaning, because this is very funny. One time when I was on the on a flight on like post-deployment leave, I bought one of like in-flight meals with a salad, and they hadn't taken the pit out of an olive, and I cracked one of my teeth. Oof. And I didn't know, because it didn't hurt that bad after. It just hurt for a bit, but it went away. So they were doing a cleaning, and I remember the dentist being like, actually, like, you're going to want to come back in and get this checked out. So I did, and the guy who actually did that kind of work, they numbed me up, and he went into it, and I just heard him go like, oh man. Ooh. Oh wow.
Always
like,
what you want to hear from your dentist.
The fucking thing you want to hear from your dentist. But so thankfully it got fixed, because it probably would have formed a big abscess and I would have lost a molar or had to have a root canal or something.
Yeah, I had a couple of years where I didn't get a cleaning when I was younger, because no dental insurance, and just being 22, 23 years old and not being top of my priority. But I remember going in to the main medical tent in Afghanistan at the time, because we still had tents in 2004. And all the dental people, like, just kind of sitting around doing nothing. I'm like, can I come in for a cleaning? They're like, nope, we don't do cleanings. We only do dental emergencies. Like, but there's no emergency right now. And they're like, yep, we give you a cleaning. We have to give everybody a cleaning. So we can't do that. So
we've got an Xbox.
Yeah, we got an Xbox. You can reach into you can get a free toothbrush, and there's a fishbowl of condoms out front.
God, I remember this happening one time where someone was getting shitty with one of our people. It was something with the like the funds, the bank, the S6 is comms. I can't remember if it's S5, S9, some bullshit. But one of the people was really mad about something that happened with the battalion, and the guy was like, I remember saying to one of our platoon sergeants, like, I'm sorry, Sergeant, I'm not having my guys come in on their day off. And this is at Fobstron in Afghanistan. Now, you can imagine what an infantry E7 platoon sergeant's reaction is to that.
to hear the word
a day off. What the fuck is a day off, Sergeant? Yeah, exactly. So I know that mentality quite well, and yeah, I was lucky. I remember getting the actual cleaning that you had to have done before to sort of get you out of, like, what is it, like Cat C or some shit for your dental, like whatever the category was, like on
Cat 4 was the Cat 4 was the bad one. Cat 2 meant you could deploy, but you should probably see somebody when you get back.
Was it like eye perms or what is that system for like your dental readiness or whatever? Like,
I can't. It's not eye perms. Eye perms is the record where you put all your records.
All that
uploaded,
stuff is just leaked out of my brain like fucking like when there's a, when you can't quite close the thing on a like a bottle of dish soap and it tips over and it just slowly leaks and you got green goo everywhere. Like all those Army acronyms are gone. But yeah, I do remember when I got like the sort of rudimentary like check the block cleaning that had to be done. I mean, I think I'm allowed to say this, that it was sort of like the dental equivalent of getting fucked without lube. Like, it's just like a 20-year-old dental hygienist specialist just ripping shit out of your teeth with a fucking hook. Like,
yeah.
I was like, okay, now I see why my soldiers are always avoiding this shit.
Yeah, I actually, when because I was a reservist, before a deployment, the Army was like, well, you need to go to a dentist and get this dental, make sure that your teeth aren't going to fall out. So I was like, I'm not going to go to whoever you tell me to. At that point, I did have a dentist. I'm like, I will go to my dentist. And they gave me like a form. They're like, take this form to your dentist. And like, imagine going to a civilian of any kind and being like, here's this military form I need you to fill out while you unfuck my teeth. And so he's sitting there and he's just like, he's got a pen hovering over and he's just like, I don't know what to put down here. I'm like, are my teeth going to fall out? He's like, well, no, but I'm like, nah. My teeth aren't going to fall out. I don't have any like gross cavities at the moment. I need to brush better. I get it. That's all you need to put down there. It is like, I guess, I think I was a cat too at that point, because he's like, you need this, this, and this, but it was nothing like you need these things as an emergency kind of, you need to get these things. Somebody needs to keep an eye on these things for a year. I'm like, well, that's not going to happen because I'm going to be in Iraq.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's going to happen. Yeah.
Nobody's going to keep an eye on that.
How it works.
I'll see you in 18 months, doctor. So that was, and we did also have the round robin where you go in and you sit down in the chair, and it's like not even a chair. It's like it was in our building, our reserve building. They had like reclining lawn chairs, basically. That but like the Army ones, I guess, like where it's a little bit nicer of a mesh. So you lay down on that. The guy leans over you. He picks, writes some things down, and he's like, "All right, you're good." And I was like, "Are you gonna do anything?" He's like, "No, I'm not here to fix anything. I'm just here to see how messed up everything is." Like this seems to be the antithesis of what we really want going on here before I go on a deployment. But again, well, how important are your teeth? They don't give me Kevlar for my teeth. They give me Kevlar for my body. So how important really is it? As long as I can continue to eat the mushy MREs, I think I'll be all right.
As long as I can manage to digest this first strike ration, which is the same meal every day.
Yeah.
Because you asked, like, I think I've told this story so many times. My theory is that they did a focus group of a bunch of one station unit training privates and said, like, what do you guys want? And the consensus was Hot Pockets and candy. And so that's just what we got. But it's like this one meal, 24 hours worth of food, same shit the whole time. Basically nothing is without caffeine. The milkshake has caffeine. The chewing gum has caffeine. And it's like, great. I love shitting myself all the time.
They can't, they figure it's like, well, we no longer can put cigarettes and meth in the food. So I guess the only thing we have left is taurine and caffeine, which is fine because most soldiers are fucking injecting that shit into their bodies regardless, through Monster Energy drinks and shit like that. Like I was a purist. I drank coffee. I didn't go over to the, and also really the only thing that existed was Red Bull when I was, in the Army.
So we obviously had like the terrible the
Rippets eventually.
Rippets, yeah, from the dining facility. And it was interesting because so we had a PX on Fob Sharana when the Bergdahl thing happened and everyone was out all over the place, like, for a long time. I don't know if I don't know because I just didn't have time or I wasn't on the base because we were constantly going out on these various missions. And then also the peak of summer and the fighting season made it so that they could barely even get like potable water delivered. So the idea of them getting like the resupply for the PX was just less consistent. So as far as I understand, like they just were out of stuff. The big thing was like if you were picking guys up at the airfield who had been out on a mission, the thing they wanted the most was obviously they needed new uniforms and new gloves and probably new eye pro because like shit had gotten scratched up, and cleaning items, soap, laundry soap, toothbrushes, etc. But the big one they always were asking me for was American cigarettes and American dip. Because that typically they, at least the PX did keep in stock, but they'd sometimes have Red Bull. And so there wasn't really a limit on how much you could buy. So when we went back to the fob in our big fuel truck with the two 500-gallon containers on the back of it, that was notionally called more safe to drive than a Humvee.
Sure.
Fine. I had Frag 3 on it, so whatever. We would just go by and we'd literally stuff the cigarettes and fucking Red Bull into like it has those like drop gates on the side of it, and we just like stow it, and using bungee cords stow it in there, so basically between the fuel tanks and the gate itself, because it's just like a modified deuce and a half, LMTV. And so we'd go back to the compound. Otherwise we'd have could get Afghan ones. I can't remember what the Afghan ones were called. They didn't have
Pine
wild
lights,
tigers
baby.
like they had in what were they called?
Pine Lights. And,
Afghan cigarettes, I know that. But actually, Pine Lights are Korean cigarettes, but because I used to see them every now and again in Korea, but they're kind of a rarer brand. But yeah, like Afghan.
88 Miles were the other ones that we smoked.
But what were the Afghan energy drinks? Do you remember? Because they may not have had them when you were.
No, I didn't. We didn't.
I'm pretty sure the ones that we got were like the guys got from the bazaars were Pakistani or Iranian or like Central Asian, like like Tajik, Uzbek, Turkmen, that kind of thing. Or maybe even Russian, but I don't really remember, and I don't want to invent a story. Obviously, the guys talk about wild tigers in Iraq and Miami cigarettes. That's the one that everyone always remembers. But the energy drink thing with coffee, honestly, man, this was a funny story. So being me, I didn't have it on me, but when I was on the base and APO was working out and I realized the situation where like the DFAC sucked and the coffee situation sucked, I just ordered through the internet. For a period of time, they had forgotten to renew the contract on their like VPN / net nanny shit to block us from the internet. So we had completely unrestricted internet. And so I could get on my Nipper computer. This is going to sound weird to non-military, but Nipper is, I guess it's secret or secured IP relay. And then
Sipper was secure and Nipper was the unsecured, but still had some. You still couldn't look at porn on it.
No, it would be censored, but you could access most. And for a while, when they didn't have the blocker in place, we could get on Facebook. But I just got on various websites and ordered shit to APO address, and I ordered one of those like Nissan stainless steel coffee presses because I'd had one in college, and like those things are pretty much indestructible. And then I actually ordered a hand crank grinder from just people who sold it and were willing to ship to fucking APO. And so very rarely could I get coffee beans. The PX certainly didn't have them. I'd have to order them through APO. But then on our compound, one day I was going and dealing with some bullshit, or there was an adjacent American cop, and my soldiers would sleep there. But most of the time, I slept on the Afghan side on our little base because it was me and my NCOIC and our main interpreter. But we had to go over to the Georgia National Guard's like headquarters for some bullshit. And one of them, for some reason, made some comment about Starbucks coffee, and I was like, "Oh, y'all have?" And he's like, "Yeah, someone shipped us, like someone's family works at Starbucks and sent it to us, but like nobody's got a coffee grinder here, so like we can't use it." And he opened up like a fucking wall locker full of nothing but whole bean coffee.
Ooh.
And I was just like, bro, are you for fucking real? Get a mortar and pestle,
get some rocks, man.
Like I said, I know, lack of ingenuity. But I just took like 4 of them and took them back to the room. And like my interpreter and I actually talked recently. He said like he'd never had coffee in his life before he was my roommate. He's now an American citizen. He lives in Virginia. He's like, I love coffee and I love making coffee and the kind of like ritual of making coffee. Like you showed me that. Like it's something that I still do. And I'm like, it's like genuinely touching. But yeah, that was my
you've
that was
Americanized
my
him.
He was a really, really, really good dude, and he got, without revealing like personal or sensitive stuff about him, like he'd been working as an interpreter since he was 16. He had just lied, and he was Hazara, and I think that his packet was like getting institutionally discriminated against by the sort of Afghan civilians and people up at what is it at not Stika, but like the basically like the theater command, like ISAF, etc. because lots and lots and lots of people who started after him who were Pashtun or Tajik were getting picked, and his packet kept getting lost. But he had at one point interpreted for a guy who went on to be a major general in the National Guard. And so that guy, at least like the State Department and the SIV people had to respond to him. They didn't give a fuck about a random captain or major, lieutenant colonel or colonel who messaged them. But a general they did have to pay attention to. And finally, I also called my senator's office. They sorted it, and he got his SIV, and then he and his wife moved over, and they naturalized, and their daughters are American citizens too. But he worked as an interpreter. He was 4 years younger than me, so he worked for an interpreter basically from like when right after the fall of the Taliban in the end of 2001 until he was able to get his visa. And I remember getting the call that he had gotten his visa, and it was when I was on post, I was still technically in the army, I think, but I was on, terminal leave in Turkey, seeing a friend of mine in 2014. So this kid worked normally I think it was 3 years you had to work as like a line interpreter before you would qualify for an SIV, as long as you got you passed all the background checks and shit. He was working as an interpreter for 12 years. Before they finally got his fucking packet sorted. And I think it was like the third or fourth time we submitted it. Like, it was maddening. I don't know. I'm completely rambling.
But you'll never find somebody who's more happy to be an American citizen. My neighborhood is we have so many Afghans in the neighborhood now, and I love it. Because I can at least when I'm the middle-aged white guy walking my giant dog around the neighborhood, and everybody kind of gives me, not really giving me a look, but just, I can tell, one, I can tell because, they have all these, shelves outside of the house for all of their shoes, but also like I've seen more than one car where the back window has like whatever the symbol in the middle of the Afghan flag is, just like
it's the Darul Alam, the Darul
a giant
Alam
one of those on the back of the thing. So I love it. I love seeing them. And,
and the people recognize you and when you're out walking, Stella, and wave their hands, and they're like, "Yo, Francis John, get that big ass dog the fuck out of here!
Get the fucking dog away!" But no, I can at least throw a salam alaikum to him, and you get the immediate like, "Oh shit, he at least knows that." He at least is not. Yeah, because I understand. I'm a middle-aged white guy. Like on first appearance, you're going to be hesitant about me because Lord knows what kind of bullshit's about to spew out of my mouth. But I wave and I smile and I give a salam alaikum, and they give me an alaikum salam back, and everybody's happy. So it works out pretty well. And actually, I was getting my hair cut not too long ago, and a guy and his wife came in, and the guy spoke English and his wife didn't. I said, "You must have been an interpreter." So he and I were reminiscing about Afghanistan. He was much younger than I was, so he was probably just a little kid when I was there. But I am happy to see all of these people come over and be here. And look, you'll hear gunshots at night here, but like at least they're like a drunk guy with a 9mm shooting up in the air, and it's not it's not something more sinister.
I think the thing about it was, for me, it's maybe a little bit more difficult because like being at the level where I was and how tied in with the Afghans I was, there were lots and lots of people in that country who were just caught in an impossible situation because obviously in most cases they didn't like the Taliban. I mean, in where I was in Pashtun regions, the Taliban and their version of their interpretation of Sharia law is like, it's not that different from the kind of like traditional countryside conservative practices, although there are some things that wasn't the case maybe 50 years ago as much, but it definitely is now. Obviously, that's very, very foreign in other parts of the country. Like, they're just not that conservative. But Pashtun areas are. But the thing about it is with the Taliban is that, like, the Taliban were a lot of things, and most of them bad, but one thing they weren't was corrupt in the way that the Karzai and then later Ghani government were. And the thing about it was with the Taliban is that, like, the government, Ashraf Ghani or Hamid Karzai or any of the Afghan, the appointed governors and such, they could make threats and maybe they would follow up on them. Like, if you don't do this, then like fucking we're going to put you in jail or whatever. Like, you know, tell us what you know, etc. But the one thing that the people in those villages and small towns knew was like, if the Taliban made threats, they would fucking follow up on them.
Yeah.
And so it was this, and I think anyone who actually got up close to it and watched what was happening and saw like what we called progress could have told you what happened in 2021 was always going to happen. We talked about it on our episode with Joe right after it happened, and I still stand by that opinion. I don't hold those people in any contempt. I have the utmost sympathy for them. They had an impossible situation. The people that I hold in contempt are the people who lied to themselves, lied to other people about what was actually going on for so long, and then acted like, oh, I can't believe we betrayed our Afghan allies. It's like, brother, you should have seen what like, where were you in 2009 and 2005 and 2014? Like, where were you, man? Like,
have you seen what we do to the Kurds, man? Come on.
I mean, what we did to the Kurds, what we did to the Shia in southern Iraq. Like, look, man, at the end of the day, I feel really bad. But another thing I do also feel really bad for, because this is one of the things that my former interpreter told me, is because he got a job working for a non-Muslim religious charity in America doing refugee resettlement. Like, and he's really good at it. And he speaks so many languages very, very well, because his English is phenomenal, but he also speaks Dari and also Farsi and Pashto and Urdu. And like, he's very good at his job. But one of the points that he made is that at the end of the day, no matter what people said about like, hey, you know, like we're making sure that all of people who helped our troops are getting to America, that's not true. The people, by and large, who made it out, if they weren't connected with special forces or you know, journalists who think they're special forces, who know guys who are doing helicopter shit, if they rushed the airfield on the first day, they probably got out. And the people who were like, hey, I worked for the U.S. for, you know, 7 years, 10 years, whatever, I live in, I don't know, Ghazni or fucking Mazar-e-Sharif or God help you, fucking Kandahar City or Lashkar Gah, like those people who were waiting for the call, they didn't get out. And so that they either smuggled themselves out or they got captured and got killed or put in prison at a bare minimum. It's really sad. It's really, really, really sad.
As I say, at the end of the day, people just want to live. They just want to they want to, you know, raise their families. They want to, you know, they want to be happy and do all these things. And there's always going to be some sort of outside government force that, you know, may or may not kind of push against that, especially with the Taliban. And it's just unfortunate because, like, you know, we have a lot of resettlement here in St. Louis, and I'm always happy to see people come here because it's like, I feel like you can finally relax here. Like, I'm not going to say it's perfect, and absolutely you're probably going to come across some like racist dipshits out there, but at least, you know, you're not going to get whacked by the Taliban in the middle of the night.
I mean, I have a guy that I give just a couple £100 every month because I can afford it. You know, I make good money podcasting, and he was one of the A&P that worked with me, but he was like, he spoke English, he learned it pretty well while he was working with the US. He worked at this facility they ran that was like through Dynacore or one of the fucking contractors, but was like a basic training kind of facility for Afghan police in our province. And then he went on to be like a senior police chief in one of the northern provinces where he's from. So everyone where he's from knows he worked for the A&P at a senior level. And then everyone in you know, at least in Paktika province, knew he worked for the Americans. So he had to get out because there was just no way. People were already looking for him. They were looking for him in Kabul. They were looking for him where he's from. So I tried to get him out. He couldn't get out. They couldn't get to the airfield. Managed to get him and pay to like get a Pakistani medical visa. Got his family there. He's working. He also is, you know, was helping with his family and stuff. But at a certain point, he actually had to send his wife and kids back to Afghanistan because the Pakistani government started cracking down and did this massive like ethnic cleansing basically of their entire Afghan refugee population. And he had papers, but he couldn't get papers for he didn't have permanent ones, but he has good enough valid visa papers for himself, but he couldn't get them for his family. So he had to send them back. And it's like, I mean, I can only imagine how much it fucking sucks to be separated from your wife and your kids. And his kids are real little. His, you know, son and daughter are both under 5. And I have dotted every I and crossed every T on his priority 1 visa application. And so far it's in the works, but like, it's just because of just total dysfunction in Congress and all the fucking things that are going on with it, and the fact that like, and this is not meant to open up a new conversation to yell about it, but basically once white refugees from Ukraine became in the picture, like suddenly we didn't care about resettling Afghans anymore. Mm-hmm. And that's not a knock on Ukrainians, but fuck me, dude. Like, you know, I'm in an interesting position because I have, through marriage, distant relatives who are all Ukrainian, and also I have this guy that I know personally that I've worked with that is, you know, suffering and at risk, and Pakistan's emphatically not safe for him. And like, he is so obviously qualified for this, and I'll do whatever they ask me to do, but like, what they're asking me to do is wait years and say nothing. They never respond to emails, and hilariously, sadly, darkly, the one guy who would respond to emails and help me out with stuff and like told me who to talk to and got me like the reference number and shit was that guy Joshua Paul, who quit the State Department because of Biden's Israel arms sale policy.
Oh no.
So I mean, I'm glad that dude fucking said I can't support this morally anymore. I'm done. That's the right decision to make. But sadly, he was the only member of the U.S. government, to include my congresswoman and my senators, who ever even responded to anything about any of this. They just don't fucking care, and they have a million fucking artificial layers to keep you from being able to talk to them about it. And, you know, now that I've sent some emails and letters and stuff, I you know, Kirsten Gillibrand tells me about like her fundraisers for like fucking some dumb bullshit to like, you know, help do a bake sale. We'll sell all the pencils and erasers from public schools in New York and use them to buy new munitions for the IDF or whatever the fuck she's on about. But I can never get a response from her about a thing that I, her constituent, because I'm still a registered voter in New York, have been trying to get resolved for, well, over 2 years now. So I just send him money and hope that podcasting doesn't fucking bottom out. And frankly, you know, 200 pounds a month goes a long way in Pakistan. And that's what I try to get, you know, and it just fucking sucks, dude. It sucks so bad, but it's just one of those things where like, I don't begrudge the people who made it out. And before you put on your cat ears and scream at me about this, I don't begrudge the Ukrainians who made it out either. But it is it's difficult sometimes because people treat it like a zero-sum game. And it's like, oh, well, there's only so much we can do. It's like, that's complete fucking horseshit. If you wanted to help both groups, you could. You absolutely could. Yep.
It wouldn't be hard, but you know, it's not politically expedient for anybody to help people in a country that we have been trying to forget for, you know, even during the war, we were trying to forget about Afghanistan. So now that we're pulled out and we have nobody there, certainly there's no political expedient reason to push on anything like that. And
it's one of those things too, where it's like, you are lying to yourself if you do not believe that there is a contingent of people in both. I see it in Europe, I see it in America, who will do a song and dance to avoid the point, but they deep down acknowledge that they are more comfortable with refugees who are white and from a Christian country. Mm-hmm. And to me, it doesn't matter what race or religion or region you're from. Like, it's the situation that you're in that, you know, warrants your need for protection and for asylum and all these things. And in the case of Ukraine, you know, it's a really, really horrible situation. In the case of Afghanistan, it's our fault.
Mm-hmm. That's on us.
It's all on us. And so that, to me, I think is what I like I said, my you know, through marriage, not obviously not my marriage, but family, you know, have the distant connection to Ukrainians. But I was in Afghanistan. This is a guy I know personally. Like, I've hung out with him tons of times, fucking smoking and drinking tea, fucking showed me all the photos of his kids when they were born. Like he's my friend. You know what I mean? And like, it's so agonizing and galling to me that, like, with my interpreters, I could fight and be annoying to my fucking senators, and there was a certain thing that was like more accountability, even though it sucked. But for this man, they just do not care. And you know, my grandfather was very, very bitter about the way that the people he worked with in Vietnam got treated afterwards in an exact same way. And it's like, well, that's the American way, apparently, is make these people expose themselves to, like, you know, threats to their life by backing our side, and then we go home and say, fuck off, we're full, don't need any refugees who aren't white, you know? Yeah. It drives me nuts. But anyway, we got, on a lighter note, on a more positive note, talk about some Ask a Dad questions.
Yeah, so we solicited some more Ask a Dad from our Discord. If you want to ask questions for us to answer, You can join our Discord at any dollar amount on the Patreon, but you can also email us at sergeantjoker@hellofawaytodie.com, and you can DM either one of us. I know my DMs are open. I don't know how often you're on Twitter these days, but I'm always there.
I check. I don't really post much, but I check my DMs periodically. So yeah.
So yeah, if you want to add a question into our big bucket here, the question that we have today is, what lessons from the military helped you out the most with being a dad? I will say that I will never smell anything worse than what I've smelled in Iraq. And that has really helped with all of the emanations that come from a baby. It can be pretty fucking bad sometimes. But we had a baby and a dog and cats and fish. So I am the poopsmith of the house, and I am constantly having to clean all that stuff up. And there was a border crossing in Iraq that I went to with the unit, and it was a mix of a lot of sweaty truckers and a lot of human feces all over the place, and 2-week-old dead dog. All of that kind of mixed together and sledgehammered me in the face, and I've never experienced anything worse than that. That's not really a lesson. I guess it's an experience, but for lessons, I don't know, like just shit needs to get done, and if shit needs to get done, we do the thing. Like I've always been, well, not always, but the military at least has taught me that if you have to get a thing done, there's no use in procrastinating or putting it off, no matter how much it sucks. Just do it, and then once you've done it, it's done, and you can move on to the next thing. How about you, Nate?
Yeah, I would say that in terms of the gross smells thing, the military obviously helped a lot with that, but I also think that, it certainly taught me something that I think is useful when you have a baby or small children, which is that, like, how much of a mental improvement it is when you can get clean. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's like, that is a thing that helps, and you try to make it a point to make sure that they're clean. Like, not like, obviously I'm not going to let my kid get fucking like disgustingly gross, but sometimes it's like, it's a lot of work to bathe them and clean them, but like they'll feel better, they'll be more relaxed. That's a small one. A big one is the combination of Ranger School and SFAS and being deployed in an infantry unit. I think the most important lesson that I learned was that you have got to prep stuff so that your tired self doesn't sabotage what you're working on. Maybe the better way to say it is you need to tired proof yourself and your stuff. And so if you've got something you've got to get done, or you've got something going on that's important, like, you have to put things in place to mitigate the mistakes you're going to make when you're tired.
Yeah.
And that might mean putting everything in the same place every time. That might mean tying stuff down. That might be, there's a wide variety of different applications, and the military way is by no means the only way, or even the correct way in every situation, or even in most situations. But I would say that, weirdly, having gotten through Ranger School and the level of like having to do stuff by the numbers, where if you don't do it exactly by the numbers, you fail, while insanely tired and hungry and dirty and gross and just worn out, that was actually really good preparation for those initial weeks after our daughter was born, and certainly for those days when Cynthia was in the hospital and I was solo parenting. It genuinely, knowing, okay, I'm gonna make mistakes and I'm gonna mess up, and like, I not gotta have everything. I can't be looking for stuff. I can't pack that bag tomorrow like 10 minutes before I have to go. I've got to get it all done in advance and prepped. That was the thing I learned that got me through Ranger School. That made that, and then post deployment, that made SFAS a lot easier. Because like some of my squad mates were just like, oh, fuck, sleep. I want to sleep right now. And I was like, no. Take care of your feet. Lose an hour of sleep. We get plenty in this fucking school. Take an hour to get your shit ready, get your stuff packed, put things so you know where they're at, fill all your canteens with water, take care of your feet, like stretch, drink water, piss, do hygiene, all this stuff. But don't, like, you've got to prep your stuff so that you wake up in the morning and you throw the stuff on and you get in formation and you're good to go. When they say go, you're ready. And with a baby, it's the exact same thing. It's like, you don't want to be looking for the medicine you need, or the formula, or the bottle of breast milk, if that's what you're doing, or the thing you need, the cloth, the clothes, whatever, in the dark when the baby's freaking out. Mm-hmm. You just don't want to be doing it. You don't want to be so tired. Like, I created a system very quickly where I was like, I will not ever use a baby wipe to wipe her mouth, because I realize I'm so tired that I might potentially forget and use a not clean baby wipe to wipe her mouth. I'm going to use a muslin cloth. there's just a system in place. One is here, the other is there. They never cross streams. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Like, and the more you put that in practice, I think, then the easier it is to not be frustrated and not have those situations that are already stressful, like boil over for stress.
Yep. I remember when we were having to do bottle feeding and being like, I don't want to clean the bottles right now, but if I don't clean the bottles now, that means I have to clean the bottles when she's hungry, and I don't want to have to clean the bottles when she's hungry. So just fucking do it now. The bottles will be ready, and then I can just throw the formula or throw the breast milk in, throw whatever needs to go into the thing, and we can go. And it's just always going to be better to be prepped. So I'm with you on that.
As a side note, the NHS is really, their guidance is I think I've told you before that they try to like use nudge theory and weird sort of administrative hurdles to make it as hard as possible to formula feed. And their guidance is that you should sterilize every bottle every single time. So we just bought a UV sterilizer that has a built-in like fan dryer. So what I do is I wash all the bottles and then put them on the drying rack, but then you can only fit so many in the sterilizer. And so I just, work through them. But at least I know that like, if I can't get them all done at night, I'll get at least like 2 batches of 3 done. So I have 6 sterile bottles. And then the next day, it's just a matter of empty the one that's in there, put them together, load up the stuff, cycle through, get it done. But yeah, I make it a point, like at the end of the day, unless I'm really exhausted and we don't, and if we have an oversupply already and we're fine, then I can wait a day. But normally one of my daily tasks is rinse and wash every single bottle in the sink, every single part, and then just sterilize them, put them back together and do it. And so, yeah, that's because if you don't, then what you described is, oh my God, the baby's hungry and I don't have any bottles that are clean.
Yep.
Not a place you want to be.
Yeah, you're having to quickly try to clean something out. You're just not going to get it as clean as it should be, and then you're going to feel like a piece of shit. So
yeah, like you failed your child. So yeah, don't do that.
Well, Nate, thank you. Everybody, thank you for listening. Again, you can support us on Patreon. You get access to the Discord. You get you get bonus episodes. You will get interview episodes earlier than everybody else. And if you sign up for the emails, you will get all of this stuff plus coupon codes for the store. We've got all kinds of great stuff in the store. I've got new pins. I've got my Carlton Gustav pins that are going to be dropping pretty soon. The fancy man on a penny farthing with the shoulder mounted rocket launcher. One of my favorite new designs that we've had. But that's all there. We're going to have all of that linked down below. But Nate, thank you so much. Always enjoy talking. I hope everybody enjoyed listening to us talk about our teeth for 40 minutes.
Yes.
That's the kind of good shit that you get here. Is
that hell of a way promise you get to hear us talk about our teeth.
Yeah, middle-aged dudes talking about middle-aged problems. But judging by the demographics, you're probably middle-aged too, so you've experiencing these things as well. So, but we appreciate it. We appreciate whatever support that you guys can give us, whether it be financially or whether it be telling people, hey, you should check these 2 guys out. They're not complete dipshits. Also along with all of this, I do solo episodes where I kind of dive into military news and things like that. We do try to keep a little bit of that military stuff, but Lord knows we don't want to just constantly talk about the fucking army here, even though we did talk about the army for at least 30 minutes here. Yeah, we actually had a more army-centric episode in our dad chat. But you know what, Francis, it's always a pleasure. To all you out there listening, we really appreciate you, and we will speak to you next week.